everybody, and welcome to your Christmas cookie decorating class. There's a few things I'd like to suggest that you have out and ready in preparation for decorating your cookies. The first is a few squares of paper towel. So I like to have a folded piece of paper towel underneath the cookie that I'm decorating, and I also like to have one off to the side that I can rest my icing bags on as well, so that they don't get all over my counter. I'd also like you to make sure that you have your toothpicks that were included in the kit. We are going to start with the Lightbulb cookie first, and the first thing you're going to see me do is use the smaller bag of white icing, which is your outline icing. It's a little bit stiffer, and you're just going to point the tip of the icing bag where you want it to start on the cookie, and you can rest it on the cookie just a little bit above. And then just squeeze gently and a little bit of the icing should come out. And I start in the corner of the cookie, as you can see here. And then you just carefully lift your icing bag ever so slightly off the cookie. And you're basically tracing the outline of where you want that section to be for the bottom of the light bulb with your outline consistency icing. So just use, again, the smaller bag of white icing that came in your kit and just trace that outline. And then for the second and the third icing sections for the light bulb, just again point the tip of the icing bag where you want the icing to start, give it a little squeeze, and then lift gently as you trace the outline of where you want your icing to go. And once you're done making your 3 oval outlines for your light bulb, I'd like you to switch to the larger white icing bag, which is your flood icing. And we're just going to go ahead and flood the top and the bottom sections of the bottom of the light bulb. So again, as with the outline icing, you just put the tip of the icing bag where you'd like the flood to start. I like to often work from the edges into the middle, so you can just put it up against it at one of the outline ovals that you made, squeeze it, and you should be able to work around the edges of your top shape and into the middle, and then make sure that you're flooding it evenly so that there's not like areas that have not a lot of icing and areas that have a lot of icing. Try and make it mostly even, and then the icing should settle on itself. So again, we're just doing the top section, and then you'll see me do the bottom section as well, and we're going to leave the middle section blank for now so that we give it a chance to crust over, so that we'll still have the definition between the two sections. And once you're done with that, I'd like you to set your light bulb cookie off to the side, and I just like to pick it up on the paper towel so I don't have to worry about managing the cookie itself, and just set it aside. And then the next cookie we're going to be working on is the mistletoe or holly cookie. So again, with this, you're going to see me start and point the tip of the icing bag where I want it to go, and then just keep lifting it and trying to curve the icing around the outline of the cookie itself. With this one, it's a little bit more complicated, so don't worry about if you accidentally don't get it quite to the edges of where you'd like it to. You'll see me in this video go back over and fix a few of the lines that I made as well. It's very easy to just fix a few lines to make them fit the edges of the cookie better. And then again with the flood, I trace the outline shape with my flood icing, and then work my way into the middle. And with a full cookie, when you're flooding, you really want to make sure that you are flooding it evenly, and that there aren't like really large areas that have not a lot of icing, and then areas that are like almost over full. You want to try and be consistent so that it creates a flat surface for you to work on later. And again, your outline icing is the smaller bag that is a stiffer consistency, and then your flood icing is a larger bag that is more of like a liquid and fluid consistency. And now you're going to put your floral cookie away as well, and then please grab the square cookie. We outline it in the same way that we would the other two, and then I'm showing you how I would flood a more specific shape with like the corners of a square. So instead of starting off with a really, really thick area of flood, I just kind of do a smaller and a thinner little line of flood for a more precise shape as this. So you'll see me kind of like tracing and dragging the flood to create a really small flood border, and then I go back in to flood the whole cookie once I have the flood and all that in the corners of the square first. And now I'd like you to go back to the light bulb cookie and fill in with your flood icing that middle section of the 3 sections so that we have our 3 defined sections of icing. And then I'd also like you to pick up the smaller bag of blue icing. That is your outline icing for making the outline of the light bulb shape on your cookie. So here you'll see me starting at the one edge of the top oval and just tracing again the outline of the cookie itself and then stopping right where the first oval starts. So you want to put it right up to the oval. You don't want to end before then because it'll leave a gap in this border that we're creating for our flood. And then again for the flood, you want to start where you want the flood to come out of and then just trace the outline of the cookie with your flood as well. And I like to work most of the time from the outside edges to the inside. With this, you're going to want to work a little bit faster if you had been before, because we're going to make the highlight of the light bulb using a technique called wet on wet. So we have to make sure that our base is still wet enough to take on the white icing after as well. So you still have about 3 or 4 minutes of working time for your flood, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. So once your cookie is flooded and ready to go, you want to switch out to your flood white icing, so the larger bag of white icing, and again, like, point the icing tip right above where you want it to be and then squeeze and then have it come out and just trace the highlight. And with that, we are done the light bulb cookie. So then I'd like you to switch to holly or mistletoe cookie. And I have learned a few things with filming my first tutorial. And one of them is you have to make sure that you have ample storage space on your phone. So I hadn't realized it actually didn't record what I was doing for the outline of the leaves, but it's the same idea. I started with the stem of the greenery, so I just started near the end of the cookie that has the little lip on it for the stem and made one line up to the top of the leaves there, and then started at the stem and did my ovals or like circles of the leaves and then ended back at the stem as well. So I didn't start in the middle of the leaves. I started near the stem and then ended near the stem, and that's where I made all of my loops and lines for the mistletoe or the holly and then the leaves as well. And I did that with the smaller bag of outline icing of the green, and then I'm going in with the larger bag again of the flood icing of the green to fill them in. You want to make sure that so I'm just filling it in with the flood icing. You want to fill them in so that they have a little bit of a poof. So if you look at it from the side, the leaves are a little bit poofy instead of really flat. If you find that they're flat, you're going to want to fill up the leaves a little bit more to create that poofy effect. And then I go in with the red, and there's no like flood or outline consistency for it because we didn't need it for this kit. And then just keep squeezing until it creates the size of the holly that you'd like. And then we're going to set that to the side as well to crust over before we do the final details on the cookie. So now we're moving on to our square. You're going to want to take your black icing and create 2 lines horizontally and then 2 lines vertically. You don't have to have them overlap in the exact same spot I did. I just liked to have it off center. Then once you're done that, you just take your outline green icing and then create 1 line from where your lines overlap to create the greenery. And then you basically just do a series of small lines coming out from that line in the shape that you want your greenery to be. And then I just did 3 little red dots, and then you're going to want to set it off to the side and then pick up your holly mistletoe cookie as well. So you're going to want your outline green icing, so the smaller icing bag. So start at the edge of your leaf and do a little squeeze and then draw the line back towards the stem, and then you can end it at the stem there. And so we're just going to repeat that for every one of the leaves here. And then I'm just going in with my toothpick to kind of clean up the ends of those lines. So you're welcome to do that as well. I just kind of push them back towards the leaves themselves to so they don't stick out at the end. And then for the last step, we're going to grab our black icing again and go back to our square, and we're going to make the bow. So I started right at the intersection of the lines and then drew 1 loop of the bow, and then started in the middle again and then did a bow shape as well. And then the 2 lines. After you do the initial bow shape, I would suggest leaving it for about another 10 minutes to let that kind of dry before you do the middle circle for the bow as well. Otherwise it might just kind of blend into one blob, and that's not what we want. And there we are. That would be decorating all 3 of the cookies. I hope that you had as much fun as I did filming this and making this for you, and I really look forward to seeing all of your creations, and I'd love to hear your feedback as well. Merry Christmas!